One of the things that was said, among the many crazy things that were said, was that I didn't actually have a son that died, that I had made that up, and which is just amazing. No one's ever suggested anything so asinine before, but that was said, and you hear someone say that who's also a mother, and very, very strange. But it kind of got me to thinking. These are the things that you can kind of look at and identify, what it is. How to identify what it is. And when we see a behavior like that is so strange and bizarre, to be able to start identifying what the problems are. So, is when someone is like that, is that what narcissism is? Is that what we call that? Well, I don't know. I'm not in the business of making a diagnosis. I'm not qualified to do that. But we can certainly look at what the traits of narcissism are, and so. And a personality disorder are. So I thought I'd go through those, just basically to, assess, the people in our lives and people we're running across, and get familiar with what that disorder is. Because after all, that is basically the premise of this whole channel. We all know that narcissism is something that we all need to have. It's a quality that we all need to have, and there's a healthy amount of narcissism that each of us should have, which is, they call that healthy narcissism. It's basically just having a sense of self. That's having a sense of self, a healthy sense of wholeness, and being a whole person, not having and don't like, and that kind of thing. That's some people call that healthy narcissism. Let's go over this a little bit. So if someone is in past healthy narcissism into a little bit of a pathological narcissism, they're going to have a grandiose sense of self. They're going to feel that they need to be recognized as being superior in some way, and they'll get a little bit frustrated that the people around them aren't recognizing how superior they are, that they're missing their greatness. They are somewhat fame hungry. They think they should be known and famous, and that they're going to be. They're just too special to not be noticed, and special for a lot of things. They're too special for the rules, the rest of us have to follow. They sort of grant themselves some permission to do things just because they are, in essence, of who they are. They have an excessive need for admiration. They have an excessive need for admiration, for praise, and they're intolerant of anyone questioning why they're doing anything, questioning anything that they're doing, questioning anything that they're saying. They want to be accepted and revered and followed without question. And to question anything they're doing is you're confronting who they are. To them, those are really fighting words. For you to question their motives or question what they're doing puts you at odds with them. They can't tolerate even the slightest bit of you may be disagreeing with something that they're doing. They feel very entitled. They feel entitled to compliance. They feel entitled to praise. They feel entitled to attention above and beyond, well, way beyond anything they're going to be giving to anybody else, but beyond what anybody else gets, or they just feel like they should be getting more of everything, because they are, by essence, who they are, and everyone is lucky to be in their presence. And they can be very, very exploitative. They exploit people, to get their needs. Their needs are foremost. Their needs are absolutely foremost, and that's what always is on their mind. So they're different from sociopaths in that they aren't necessarily plotting. They aren't necessarily setting out to harm someone or use someone, but they're exploitative just by nature. So they're set out to get their needs met, and people will be exploited just in the process of doing that. So it isn't necessarily that they're setting out to harm someone or exploit someone, but it's just going to happen. It's a byproduct of what they do, because they're doing what they're going to do, focused on their own needs, getting their own needs met, and people will get exploited in the process, and that's just the way it is. They're not usually really conscious of how they're exploiting people, but they're also not delusional. They're not. It's not like they don't know. They know what they're doing. It's just they figure that's just how it is. I've got to do this because I've got to have my needs met, and to them, wants and needs are just the same thing, and they're very childlike in this. So, they absolutely cannot deny themselves anything. They can't tell themselves no. They definitely don't want you telling them no, but they can't tell themselves no. And so they feel entitled to everything that they want, and immediately, without question. And if you don't give it to them, even if, say it's, they want to buy something, and they don't have the money, you don't have the money, it's like you are denying them. There's no ability to keep it in perspective. If they want something, it becomes a need, and then it becomes dire, and it becomes like life or death. I mean, everything just gets jumps up to that level really quickly, no matter how petty it might be. It becomes a matter of life and death, and the things that these people will destroy their entire their family and relationships over can be so petty, because all things are seen the same. Everything kind of weighs more or less the same, and everything is black and white thinking. And the minute that you you confront them about something, you can't grant them one of their many wishes that they're entitled to. You become the enemy. You become all bad, and then they can't see you, can't see anything good in you, and they will fight you as though you have done something really, really terrible to them. It'll be completely out of proportion, and it will build. It'll be just kind of a frenzy that will build, that they will start treating you as though you've really done something to them. They are envious, and envy is a trait with them. It's not sometimes envy is a thing that happens to people, but in them it happens so regularly. It is such a feature of their personalities, that it really is just become a trait of theirs, that they are pathologically envious, and they believe that everyone is envious of them as well. They will accuse, they'll say it right out, outwardly, about how envious people are of them, and usually not at all accurately. I mean, they're usually way off base when they say that kind of thing. And usually it's because you flip it around and you realize that they are envious of the person they're saying that about. They will devalue the contributions of others. Say you go into business together or something, you make the success, they will basically devalue your contributions completely. It'll be all, they'll take all the praise and all the accolades and they'll take all that attention, and won't pay you your due. They're just really bad at sharing the limelight. They're really bad at sharing credit. They're as it turned out, really terrible partners. They're terrible to be in partnerships with. And this, of course, was detrimental to me in my marriage, because my husband and I actually were really a formidable team together, really, because our strengths were so different, and together we really had a good thing going, and we did really well. We made a lot of progress in a really short amount of time, but the progress changed him. The more success we got, the more it changed him. And when he it was time for the discard, I felt I was entitled to nothing. He felt really like our life was his life, and he was entitled to keep everything, every bit of it. He pursued a divorce with me as though I had died. It was like he wanted me to be able to keep. He wanted to keep what he would if I died, which is basically everything, plus a bunch of sympathy. That was what his goal was, to come out of our divorce with basically what he would get if I had died, and that was his goal. So that's a pretty incredible amount of entitlement. They will do things like without any looking into the future. So they will, and they do everything right now and for the moment. So in the moment, things can feel really empowering, such as lashing out against someone, or whatever manner of manipulation and that they need to do to get what they want in the moment. Any thoughts about what this might do to the future relationship with someone, their family, their anyone? No thoughts about how this person's gonna be able to get over this thing you just did. There's no thoughts about anything like that. And the minute that it's over for them, it's over. And so they really don't understand things like apologizing for something that happened way back when. For them, it's over. It doesn't matter how much they hurt your feelings, how much they cost you, what a nightmare they put you through. That get over it. That was that's how they'll think of it. But they are the worst. They can't get over anything. They hold grudges. They are not resilient people at all. They are very fragile, very, very fragile, and they hold on to resentments, and really pretty bad at reading the cues that are coming from other people. So they're really bad at picking up on the cues of others, because they're just not paying attention. They lack empathy. To be a good communicator, be like the life of the party kind of a person, you really need to be able to have empathy, because it's empathy that helps you to understand the way that you're being read by other people. Their sense of esteem is so fragile that they need constant reinforcement, telling them about how great they are. They need that. And so, and they feel absolutely entitled to it. They don't care about how they're exploiting people or manipulating people in order to get that. It's basically in their minds that everyone's doing that. In their mind, everyone is trying to do that, and so they're just doing it better. Manage people. They manage relationships, which means that they're not being completely honest enough about who they are, about anything. You know, it's all coming from an angle. Really absolutely unable to take any kind of criticism and unable to take responsibility for mistakes they've made. They must be perfect in their mind, in their lives, in their mind. You know, things are perfect or they're garbage. You know, it's either or, and their constant battle is that they believe inside that they are garbage, and they're fighting that knowledge at all times. And of course, in the process, the irony of it is that in the process they only behave like garbage. You know, they behave terribly, trying to convince everybody that they're not garbage.